like that little line that CM Punk said. A wise man once said, in order to get everything that I need to get, I have to leave this place and come back. And just as they went off the air, you heard a little remark, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. And that's what it's all about. CM Punk, Randy Orton, let's not forget that, both return to Monday Night Raw tonight. I want to welcome everyone. It is November 27th, 2023. Welcome to your Raw post-show. I am Don Tony, as always. Can we all agree? Little ballsy to have WWE go the full 3 hours for CM Punk, with all due respect, to give us a similar promo to when he made his AEW appearance. Only difference is I'm home. Look, it is awesome to have CM Punk back on our televisions, in my opinion. I know not every single one of you out there is a CM Punk fan, but I have bought in for CM Punk the last couple of years. To see WWE capitalizing on this and CM Punk capitalizing on this. And if you remember months ago, when we had this conversation that if CM Punk were to return to the WWE, the biggest fuck you that CM Punk could give to Jack Perry, to give to the Young Bucks, to give Kenny Omega, even though you hear little rumblings that Kenny Omega has tried to mend the fences more than anybody else on that side of the aisle. But, the best fuck you that CM Punk could give to all of them is to not only return to the WWE, but to return completely professional as a team player. Yes, to make money. Yes, to make history. Yes, to become legendary status, if he's not already, which I think he is. But to show no signs that what happened there, it's like a dream. It's like a nightmare that I just woke up and realized that none of that ever happened. Took the magic wand and all is good. Now, I will say this, very, very ballsy by WWE to wait the entire 3 hours to put him on just to give the love speech. I'm home. By the way, AJ is doing great and she sends her regards. Now I'm starting to wonder, could we possibly be getting AJ Lee and CM Punk versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch at WrestleMania? Man, doesn't it feel like they could immediately be going that route? I think Drew McIntyre is going to become World Heavyweight Champion. You've heard me say that over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I still believe that. And after tonight, I think even more of a reason. You cannot set up Drew McIntyre to this level to fail again. We had fun over the weekend, people buying into him storming out, getting into his car, racing off, which he did 2 weeks ago to Jackie Redmond. CM Punk making his return and Seth Rollins making sure everybody's looking, fuck you, fuck you. If you missed yesterday's 3-hour sit-down episode, we had a spectacular discussion. A little overview about Survivor Series, but we also talked about CM Punk and Triple H and Randy Orton, a whole bunch of other topics. But one thing that people need to start realizing is a little bit of the old school mentality, a little bit of the Dusty Rhodes, a little bit of that idea. Of course, we know in 2023 what pro wrestling is. We know in 2003 what pro wrestling is. Technically, in 1993, we pretty much knew what pro wrestling is. Even though when ECW was at its peak, I've always said this on my hotline at one time, we did a poll and like 75% of people that called my hotline thought that there were elements of ECW that was real. I mean, that's how believable it would get. What Triple H is doing right now, you don't hear this online. You don't read it on news sites. You don't read it in blogs. You don't hear it on podcasts. You will. Soon enough, they will catch on, but you're hearing it here. What Triple H is doing is the only way to really, really suspend disbelief when you know what pro wrestling is and you see the shoot interviews and you see doing the favors and the phrase that people use is you got to blur that line from reality and entertainment. And what Triple H is instilling on that roster is not going to tell a journalist. They are professionals. They are artists. They are magicians to an extent. They're not going to tell a journalist, every little thing that they do. This is their craft. We are on the outside looking in, enjoying it, covering it, reporting it, liking it, disliking it. They're not going to tell you everything. Triple H is telling his roster, as long as there's somebody with a phone in the arena, in the back, in the parking lot, you act like the show is still going. So when Drew McIntyre storms off, races into his car and pulls away, and you have Seth Rollins at ringside losing his shit, and Michael Cole is the one that has to hold him back. As long as the cameras could be rolling somewhere, you keep going with it. And that's what we're getting. And that's why it's so intriguing. My God, look at the Hall of Famers that do podcasts. Look on YouTube today. I don't need to mention names. And trust me, there's many more than just the name Cornette. I respect what he does now. It took me many years to become a fan of what he does. I don't agree with everything that he says, but you look around YouTube, you will see Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer. Is what Drew did a shoot, or was it a work? Was Seth Rollins, was that a shoot, or was it? They know what it is, but they know that that's what brings in the money. And CM Punk, now, I don't know about the numbers that they said today that became history, and I'll tell you why. I'm not discounting it. Hear me out. Michael Cole today said that CM Punk made history, that over 71 million views across social platforms. Actually, I just figured it out. Sometimes Don Tony could be smart. Okay, check this out. And this will answer it because I know a lot of you are saying the same thing right now. Michael Cole said today that CM Punk, with 71 plus million views, has the most viewed social platform video in WWE history. And immediately everybody was going around and saying, whoa. What about The Rock and Austin Theory? 100 million views on YouTube. Whoa. I just realized it. Do you know why they're not counting Austin Theory and The Rock's 100 plus million views? Because YouTube is not social media. It's not a social platform. That's why they're not counting The Rock and Austin Theory. It just hit me. They're talking about Twitter. They're talking about Instagram. They're talking about TikTok. They're talking about Twitter. They're talking about Facebook. They're not talking about YouTube. YouTube is a platform. It's not social media. That's why they're not counting that. But still, man, 71 million views in 48 hours. That's fucking crazy. That just goes to show you the intrigue. It's intrigue. You saw people today, they predicted the greatest Raw episode since the Attitude Era. In my honest opinion, I thought Raw tonight was very underwhelming. I think Raw was Randy Orton's return. Welcome back, CM Punk. I actually like Drew McIntyre more than anything else tonight. Seth Rollins to an extent, because yesterday we talked. How should Seth Rollins handle today? Does he wear the totally puffed out, goofy outfits and acting like a clown? Or is he a little bit more serious? And he was a little bit more serious. First he addressed the CM Punk fans. Let it out. Let it out. I'm not going to spend 5 minutes on that hypocrite. And then, you know what? I'm in a good mood. I'm getting that itch to fight again. And then you see the little twist with Drew McIntyre afterwards. That fucking headbutt with the title. That shit was smarting. But tonight's Raw, I thought, was very underwhelming. I think that WWE realized that because of the number of views, they rolled the dice to see if people were going to watch the entire 3 hours to get to that 5-minute I'm home speech. No confrontation. Some of us thought towards the end, why did Becky Lynch have that little remark with Jackie Redmond? I was like, are they really going to possibly have Becky Lynch confront Seth Rollins with 5 minutes left on the clock? So Raw tonight, I thought was a little bit underwhelming under the circumstances. And it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of rating it pops, because yesterday we were pondering, do they open with Randy or do they open with CM Punk? And if you've paid attention to the ratings breakdowns that we've been getting into, Drew McIntyre last week did like 1.7 million to open up Raw. I don't know how much more than that Randy Orton has. I am ecstatic that Randy Orton is back. You could see tonight that he has to change his game a little bit. Dominic Mysterio being a little bit more methodical, taking a fucking beating tonight. Little JD McDonough antics as well. And then you got this jelly donut guy, Jelly Roll. I didn't have any problem with him. Some people were giving me a little rundown of who he is from Nashville, and he is a legit wrestling fan. He didn't embarrass himself. This did not feel like Raw guest host territory. I had no problem with it. R-Truth tonight, doing what R-Truth does best, trying to pitch himself as the 5th member of WarGames. And Damian Priest is like, we already had WarGames. How did I do? R-Truth is special, but outside of Randy, Drew, R-Truth, CM Punk, some of it was somewhat underwhelming. But, under the circumstances, Raw is just amped their show up another notch. We got into it yesterday. There is still a TV deal being discussed right now. Now you have Nick Khan going to those meetings with the flex chest. Now we got Randy Orton back on TV. Now we got CM Punk. The most viewed social media clip, not only in WWE history, but in Twitter's history, supposedly. That just blows my mind. I can't envision that CM Punk returning at Survivor Series would be the bit, maybe since it's been X. But still, that is a selling point. My God, they started Collision for AEW with the idea that CM Punk would head that up. Of course, this is not Warner Media and this is not AEW. It's not fair to even put that in the same category. But now you just walked in with 2 extra jokers in your deck. And now Nick Khan, that makes Raw that much more enticing. That's why you will see CM Punk and Randy Orton remain on Raw, for the time being. Yeah, I expect a little bit of SmackDown interaction. Randy Orton with that little tease tonight. I'm not done with the bloodline. And I am convinced that sooner or later, Randy Orton is going to RKO Jey Uso. Never trust the snake. Never trust the viper. Randy Orton is going to get revenge on every member of the bloodline. It's not just, by the way, Solo Sikoa, was he even a factor with Randy Orton? I don't think so. So what do you got? Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso and Wiseman. So when you start thinking about it, I'm not done with the bloodline. Technically, if you're Randy Orton, you're talking about just 2 people. Jey Uso has got a receipt coming. Never trust the snake. So tonight, little false sense of security for Jey Uso. In my opinion, I could be wrong. But if you follow my shows, you know my opinions do end up happening more than they don't. Shinsuke Nakamura named his target. For 3 weeks, I could not understand how so many people got it wrong. I mean, the number one person that everybody kept saying was he's calling out CM Punk. You know, if Nakamura had that kind of magic that he's just going to call out people that aren't even employed with WWE, you know, you might as well pick everybody that we want back in the WWE. It was so obvious when he said, for months, I've been sitting aside waiting and you've been privileged. Cody Rhodes is the guy that has been the most privileged on that roster. It was not hard to figure this out. And sure enough, tonight, when Cody Rhodes made his announcement that he is going to be the first person to enter themselves in the Royal Rumble, he was interrupted by the Titantron and Seth Rollins, and Shinsuke Nakamura. You know, Cody, it's time for you to apologize. And then, sure enough, Nakamura hits the ring, spits the red mist, blinds Cody Rhodes, and Nakamura, thank you very much. So Shinsuke Nakamura will be the next meat to feed to Cody Rhodes heading into the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble is still 7 weeks away, at least. I'd say right around 7 weeks. You have to have some big matches between now and then. So Shinsuke Nakamura, Cody Rhodes, that's what we have on the horizon. By the way, before we recap Raw and get a little bit deeper into it, obviously, you know the news. Today, Tammy Sytch was sentenced. We knew that it was happening today. I have a little quick video of the sentencing today. Hey, if you followed my discussions on this, you have to look at history. You have to look at Florida. You have to look at other cases. You can't just look at it like, look at this reject drunk, repeat offender. She should burn in hell and 25 years to life in prison. If you're going to base things on emotion, you're usually going to over jump it. I thought the entire time she was going to get between 12 and 16 years in prison. And today she was in the court. It's a tragedy. It is terrible to see someone who could have been arguably not women's wrestling, because she's not known to wrestle, but could arguably have been the greatest wrestling diva in history. And she pretty much drank it, popped it, and snorted it away. And today she ended up getting 17 years in jail. Now, some things that you need to know, and I'm going to reveal something tonight that I was not allowed to say up until today. It's not a big deal, but I know some of you will get a kick out of it. There is no parole in the state of Florida. In Florida, you have to serve at least 85% of your jail sentence. This is not a case where if she's on good behavior, you get 1 day credit for every day you're in jail. It doesn't work that way. She has to serve a minimum of 85 years in 85% of her jail sentence. 85% of a jail sentence. Now she got 10 for the DUIs, and she got 7 for she got 10 and 7 and 17 years, but 85% is 14.6 years. So if she shows that she can be brought back into society, the earliest she could get out is about 14 and a half years. That's right smack in the middle of what I thought that she was going to get. I want to make this clear. I did not say 12 to 16 years because I'm a Tammy Sytch fan. My fandomhood for Tammy Sytch left years ago. I gave her the benefit of the doubt too many times. All right. I got to, meet Tammy several times. When we did the Chris Candido Memorial Show, I got to actually, I could take him out and show you. I have at least a half a dozen Christmas cards that she used to send me every year over here. It's not bragging, it's not name dropping. It's just that when you see the other side, and there's a couple of female friends of mine on social media that were close to Tammy. If you remember, we had footage of some of the court proceedings that no one had because we were given permission to view it. You always want to root for someone to turn it around. But we realized a couple of years ago, it wasn't happening. And unfortunately, the worst case scenario happened and she killed somebody. She killed somebody. That person, I think his name is Thomas Lassiter. That person is no longer here because of her. You have a family that is permanently scarred for life because of her. Taking her driver's license away for life, which is also something they did today, that means nothing. That means nothing. It's just like when you hear after a mass murder, we need to, tighten up on guns. We need to tighten up on this. And yes, I do believe in some, I don't believe in assault rifles and this and that. But if I'm a fucking criminal and I want to blow people away, you think that I'm going to go to fucking Staples or go to Sports Authority and apply for a license and wait 6 weeks and get this and get that? No, I'm going to go to the black market. Hey, Jose, hook me up with an AR-15. Usually people who break the law don't give a shit about the law. So Tammy Sytch losing her license for the rest of her life when she's 63 or 64 years old, there's nothing that could stop her from getting behind the wheel of anybody. She could get behind the wheel of she could go in a rental car. She could go in a friend's car. She went into that ex-boyfriend James Pence's car without him knowing and drove off. So taking away the license is bullshit because if you want to drive, you will drive. But she is getting 17 years in jail. And I'm going to show you a very quick clip of the sentencing today. But I'll share with you something else. For those on video, just look at your screen for a second. I'm going to show you something. How many of you out there remember this? I got to pull it on the screen. Oh, these fucking pop-up ads. Okay, let me just remove this pop-up ad. Let me reload this. There we go. All right. Anybody remember this? A little over a year ago, May of 2022, Sunny released from police custody, blasts podcast host. For some of you out there that don't know this story, the podcast host that she supposedly blasted was me. I had this crazy interaction with her social media a little over a year ago. And this is still online. You see all these crazy posts back and forth. And here's a little tidbit that I could not say in any way, shape, or form until today. When the court was deciding how much jail time to give her, the judge today was talking about remorse and talking about her state of mind and talking about attitude. And these tweets came up, and I had gotten 2 emails from someone related to the case. I'm not going to say who it was. And they wanted to know what the deal was behind this. It just goes on and on and on, everyone. If you look at this, you say, my God, burn in fucking hell when you read this. You see all this? This came up when they were trying to figure out if there's any remorse. She's on social media the day that she gets bonded out and totally fucking with me. Well, the thing was, I let the court know the truth. That was not Tammy Sytch. That was her boyfriend under her social media account going after everyone. And I was public enemy number 1. And I had to explain to this person who was involved with these court proceedings because they wanted to know what the deal was. They wanted a statement. And I said, listen, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to get my ass in trouble. That was her boyfriend at the time under her social media account. And it was not her. That's not to help her or to hurt her. But this did come up. And if I thought that was her, I absolutely would have sent a statement in and said, yeah, the day that she got bonded out, this is what she did. But how crazy is that shit? I'm not going to post the emails, but maybe I'll just blur out some of the names and some of the things. But I got that email about, 6 weeks ago. And, I was like, whoa, and you have to be honest. You can't get in trouble. But anyway, here is quickly. Listen, this court thing went on for hours today. I'm only going to give you 3 minutes of it. This is what happened in court today.
In mitigation, I do have to acknowledge a few things. While I don't feel that there are grounds to downward depart, I think there was some evidence of at least some current mental health issues in regard to the defendant, some serious addiction issues. She has had some tragedy in her life, although candidly many of us have, and unfortunately it doesn't really relieve the responsibility of a crime like this. The defendant in this case has entered an open plea. She's taken some responsibility for her actions, and I do credit her for that. In regard to the Gabriel case, and I'm going to go ahead and cite the case for the record. It's a Supreme Court case from the state of Florida. It is cited at 314 7th 3rd 1243. It's a 2021 case, as I said, out of the Supreme Court of Florida. State's argument in their memorandum of sentencing is that because that's her maximum, that is also her minimum pursuant to the Gabriel case. I don't see any other way that you could read the Gabriel case, and I think, in fairness, the defense has sort of acknowledged that that's pretty much the situation. So, in regards to counts 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, is that accurate? The misdemeanors pursuant to the negotiations and adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence her to 364 days concurrent with any other counts in this case, with credit for the 364 days that she's already served. She's actually got more credit than that, but that's a statutory maximum. In regard to count 2, driving under a suspended license, causing death or serious bodily injury, I do note it is an aggravator that she had no valid license, and she's not only choosing to drive, but choosing to drive under the influence. Pursuant to this, and state, not to be nitpicky, but I actually come up with the amount of 10.6625 would be the minimum and the maximum. So just to clarify specifically in calculating, I'm going to adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence her to 10.6625 years in the Department of Corrections. Her credit is 566 days, so with credit for the 566 days. On count 1, the DUI manslaughter, second-degree felony, I'm going to adjudicate you guilty. I'm going to sentence you consecutively to 7 years in the Department of Corrections to be served after the 10.6625. With, again, credit for, well, she's already gotten credit, I guess, on count 2, so that would already be applied. In regard to the remaining 8 years, I'm going to sentence you to followed by 8 years of probation, the conditions of which are following. Let me see where I get to this one. There is a 4-year minimum mandatory to count 1, so the first 4 years of that term will be a minimum mandatory sentence. Conditions will be standard conditions of probation, plus she must have a substance abuse evaluation with any follow-up treatment. She must have the alcohol safety education course. If that overlaps with the substance abuse evaluation, of course, there would only be one required. Victim awareness program, 50 community service hours, $10,000 fine, and her driver's license will be permanently revoked. Otherwise, any standard fines and costs.
That's it.
State is not requesting cost of prosecution, cost of investigation, so I'll not be applying those.
All right, that's it.
All right, does that...
That's pretty much it. So 17 years. When it's consecutive, that means she serves the 10.6 first, then she serves the 7. And remember, like I said, she has to serve at least 85% of this sentence. So she's in prison a minimum of about 14 and a half years. So that's it. It is a tragedy. If you want to watch the video, there's plenty of videos on YouTube of the case today. She read a prepared speech. She blames a lot of this on the death of Chris Candido. I want to make this clear. Was not very close to her. All right. I actually was a little bit closer to Chris Candido than anything else, but I will tell you this. And I know Johnny Candido's probably seeing this now, and some others out there are seeing this. She had these problems way before Chris Candido passed away. Chris Candido kind of put her over the top. But people forget that she was, dating with relationships. I remember she was dating a guy in a tanning salon. She dated this other guy. It was a toxic relationship. She had these issues way before. And I'm really, really, really tempted to tell a personal story. Kevin Castle knows this story since 2002. And now is not the time to do so. But one day soon, I will tell this story. And when I tell this story, I will bet you my future of ever doing shows again. And I've been doing this since 97. So I don't pull Rybacks. And I say that jokingly because Ryback shouldn't retire, even though he's not being booked, but he shouldn't retire because CM Punk came back. But I'll say this. You will hear other people say, oh yeah, that happened to me. Oh yeah. I could have. Trust me, when I put it out there, some people are going to come forward and say, oh, yeah, that's happened many, many times. It's sad. I will say this in closing. Let's move on from Tammy Sytch. It is a tragedy. People online celebrating, that's a little weird. She deserves all the punishment that she is getting. In a lot of ways, unless she stays in jail for the rest of her life, let's say it like that, she still has it better than the person who died in the car accident. No matter what that sentence is, she has it better because she still gets to eat 7 meals a day. She still gets to watch TV, to go on social media, to play games, to do checkers, to sew, with probably paper needles. She gets to do a lot of things that, you would say, wow, jail isn't so bad. Well, jail sucks, but it's a tragedy. It's terrible. And, I don't know. If I'm still doing this, we'll revisit it 14 and a half years from now. So very, very sad. Very sad that it had to get to that point, but it did. A little CM Punk tidbit that I shared earlier today, just to show you how sometimes things come full circle. A lot of you know I've been doing these history shows for years now, and this year we have been flashing back to episodes I did in the past. Well, today, 9 years ago today, the podcast of CM Punk on Colt Cabana, ripping Dr. Amann, ripping the WWE, saying all that, him venting. I mean, a lot of people feel that he was in the right for everything that he said in that podcast. Obviously, that turned into major lawsuits, but it was 9 years ago today that podcast came out. Not only that, this week, 9 years ago, this also happened. Vince McMahon appeared on the Broken Skull Sessions. Is that what it was called? And do you remember when Vince was on? He apologized to CM Punk. And for this week's history episode, we obviously cover it. But if you want a little quick refresher, since CM Punk made his WWE return tonight, 9 years ago this week, this happened.
I want to ask you a yep or no question. You want to talk about CM Punk?
Only from a standpoint, or first thing, I would like to do this. I would like to apologize. Sometimes in a big corporation, the legal people don't necessarily know what talent relations are doing, and conversely. And Punk got his severance papers, moreover, on the day he got married. And that was coincidence. So I want to personally apologize for that. Other than that, the only thing I want to say about Punk is that there have been a number of individuals in the past who have been disgruntled, said a lot of things about the organization, and I'm not going to, wash the dirty laundry in public. I don't think there's any reason for that. I think that there are a lot of things that he may say that he may regret one day in terms of looking back at it. But nonetheless, I hope that one day, we'll be able to get back together again. You and I got back together again. We had our differences.
Right.
Hogan, oh my God, we got back together again, after differences. Ultimate Warrior, and there's a long list of them. And in essence, what I try to do is to give the audience what they want. I try to give them what's best for business. And I know that's like we use that phrase on television now and so forth, but that's always been my philosophy. I take my ego, which is sizable, okay, and I'll put it over here and say, okay, now your ego's over here, Vince, and yada, 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 here's the way you really feel. So, but what is the best thing for business? So I'm hoping that one day we can get back together.
So you'd be open to working with Punk in the future?
Sure. I mean, again, I think...
Did you listen to the interview that he did with Colt Cabana on Art of Wrestling?
No,
good show for any sports entertainment fans out there.
No, I did not. I understand that he used a lot of expletives and things of that nature, and I don't know. I mean, I don't want to speak for Punk.
Right.
He speaks for himself. I heard it was a number of things that he said that it's his point of view.
Right.
And there's always two sides to every story.
Right. I mean, back in the day, and I don't want to put myself in Punk's shoes because he's in a very unique situation that he is in specifically.
Sure.
But back in the day, I was in a similar position. Not the same circumstances, but I was working my ass off. I was a little bit burned out. Didn't like some of the creative, but we were rock and rolling pretty good. And then I was wrestling Ric Flair in a cage in Columbus, Georgia. And Jim Ross called and gave me the creative for Monday Night Raw. And that's when I was going to do the favors for Brock Lesnar in a King of the Ring qualifier match. And with no build-up, no nothing. I mean, here's a guy, of course, as soon as Brock Lesnar walked into the WWE, you said, hey, man, this guy's a player. He had that look. He had that it. And he's a good friend of mine. But all of a sudden, I get the 411 that I'm supposed to do the favors that night. And quite frankly, me to you, guys like me are pretty hard to find. You know that, right?
Sure.
So,
and
I felt
pretty hard to build and work with, too.
Correct. How hard was I to work with?
You?
Yeah.
Oof. Wow. Sometimes you were so hard-headed it was not to be believed. Because what you would do is, you would say, I don't like the creative.
And I used some expletives in there, and then and Triple H, he told the whole story. He goes, Steve would just say, "No, I'm not doing that." Well, do you have an answer or a substitute proposition? Right. No. So I was kind of a horse's ass, being real politically correct here, but
that's not it. You weren't a horse's ass. You just didn't have an alternative. So then I started digging, and more times than not, we'd come up with it because you had an idea in your head. It's just that you couldn't explain.
What I couldn't figure out, and one of the reasons, well, not one of the reasons, but while we're talking about, guys in similar situations, the Punk deal, myself, I was a little bit burned out running hard, but I would work my ass off. You know that.
So did Punk.
What's that?
So did Punk.
So did Punk. But I got that piece of booking, and I was like, hey, man, tell Vince if that's going to be the creative, I ain't going to be there. And so he calls you, and he says, hey, man, whatever you do, when you get through working Flair in that cage, call Vince. So I called you about 2 o'clock that morning. You broke down the storyline for me.
I answer the phone 24/7.
I know, you do. You did. These days when I call you, you won't answer. Back in, first ring.
That's enough. They do talk a little bit more about CM Punk, but how crazy is that? 9 years ago today, Punk's appearance on Colt Cabana breaks the net. And then a couple of days later, Vince McMahon is on Steve Austin's podcast discussing CM Punk. 9 years later, full circle. pretty wild when you look back on it. We'll get back to the history stuff a little bit later. I got a couple of treats for you today. Really, really nice treats. But let's talk a little bit about Raw. I mean, we don't have to get really, really deep into the waters with it because Raw tonight, it did a couple of things that it needed to do. Showed us that Randy Orton is healthy enough that he can have a decent match in the ring. You could see that his style is a little bit more ground game than anything else, and Dominic was taking crazy-ass bumps tonight, getting dumped on the announcer's table twice. JD McDonough not only eating another RKO tonight, but eating a DDT as well by Spike DDT by Randy Orton. Plus, we also got to remember Damian Priest and the Judgment Day. Is Judgment Day coming for Damian Priest? It sure seems that way, although there were no facial reactions from Finn Balor or Rhea Ripley or JD McDonough or Dominic Mysterio to hint that maybe there's problems with the Judgment Day. But interesting to have a new number one contender for the men's tag team championships, the undisputed WWE tag team championships, because tonight we had a tag team turmoil match. Some people are not very happy with the outcome of it. We'll get into it, but Raw tonight opened up with Randy Orton. And Randy Orton, listen, I'm not saying this to criticize in any way, but Nashville tonight was a little bit wonky with their crowd reactions. It was a little wonky, and I'll explain why in a minute because I forgot to share something with you. Somebody was backstage at Raw tonight, and when somebody sent me the picture, just for shits and giggles, I was like very, very startled about it. I was like, oh no, because they were in Nashville, Tennessee, believe it or not. Dixie Carter, she was backstage. I'm like, no! She was visiting. Spud was there as well. Rockstar Spud was there. But hey, Dixie Carter, let's be honest, she has not aged. Unless they did a great makeup job, she looks great. I mean, look, we've seen her on social media. She just appeared on TNA for the 1000th episode. I saw that as well, but she looks good. She looks happy. Just stay out of wrestling. With all due respect, stay out of wrestling. But, look, she tried. She really tried. We have TNA still around at some point, and we do get some good wrestling, albeit not on the scale of, an AEW or a WWE, but still, the fact that it's still around after all these years is a good thing. But getting back to Raw tonight, I'm going to call it out like I see it. When Randy Orton came out, I'm not saying that the crowd was dead, but the crowd, it felt polite. Like they were happy to see the guy back. But even when Randy started talking, like you didn't hear those welcome back. Like Randy had to actually direct them into that chant. Go back and watch it and you'll see what I'm talking about. But the crowd does acknowledge that he is back, and we did get some loud welcome back chants, and he was happy to be there, and he was thinking about all, while he was out for 18 months, all the accomplishments while he was gone. But he wanted to compete at WarGames. And his dear friend, and, when I hear dear friend, I feel Randy Orton will ultimately turn on Cody Rhodes as well. I think Randy, when he RKOs Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes is going to be put in a spot. Do I take Jey Uso's side or do I take Randy's side? And I think Cody is going to show a little bit of sympathy to Jey. Randy, come on, he's a changed person. Why did you do that? And I think Randy Orton is going to RKO Cody Rhodes as well. And then that'll be sometime leading in towards WrestleMania. But Randy Orton saying that his dear friend Cody Rhodes called him up and wanted him to be in WarGames. So, of course, he was in. And he said, he brings up that War Games was created by Dusty Rhodes, and the crowd popped big for that. There's always beloved, appreciation for Dusty Rhodes amongst all us wrestling fans. And, he wanted to be part of a match that was professional wrestling history. So he also made sure to let everybody know he has unfinished business with the bloodline. If you see me looking down, it's because I got my notes on paper today. I don't have Word opened right now. But he has unfinished business with the bloodline, and he is going to make sure to give a receipt to every member of the bloodline. And that was an important point because something that happened later on in the show. And again, never trust the snake. But before we even get into that, Rhea Ripley comes out. And as Rhea Ripley is in the ring with Randy Orton, I can't help but to remember this from yesterday. KO'd Rhea. I could see it, man. I know it's off limits for the men to put their hands on a woman. I don't think there would be that much backlash because Rhea Ripley has put her hands on men so much. That's why we remember Baron Corbin's spot so well, because that never happens. So when Baron Corbin did it, it's something we still remember to this day. But we didn't get protests over it. So, under the right circumstance, yeah, I could see Randy RKO and Rhea. That would be something the crowd would lose their shit over. And tonight, that crowd was trying to get Randy to do it. They were chanting RKO, RKO, while Rhea Ripley was in the ring, and Rhea Ripley, having a little bit of a confrontation with Randy Orton. And, Randy says that he's been very observant of what's been going on with Monday Night Raw. And even though mommy is there, daddy is back. And, Rhea Ripley, at points being a little cocky, brushing it off like no big deal. But, the fans chanting RKO, they want to see Randy RKO her ass. And WWE is very, very much aware of that. But in the end, Rhea also reminds Randy Orton that, Randy teamed with someone who tried to end his career, trying to stir the shit up. And ultimately, JD McDonough would come out. Dominic Mysterio would come out. JD McDonough wearing the neck brace. So it's even funnier now when he gets his, it's funny. I get it. I've said it also. Some of you have brought it up too, that JD McDonough reminds you of a little bit of Chris Benoit with his physique and his stuff. After seeing Rockstar Spud once again today, to me, he kind of reminds me of him more than anything else. It's like a combination of Spud and Chris Benoit. But JD comes out wearing a neck brace. He eats another RKO, and Dominic gets out of Dodge. And Randy Orton says that he's, Dominic, don't go too far because I'm going to talk to Adam Pearce. And one of the matches that, you all were talking about yesterday as well ended up happening today. Randy Orton versus Dominic Mysterio, which, you think back to 18 months ago, the Dominic from 18 months ago to the Dominic of now, big difference. Big difference, but that sets up the main event match. A lot of us thought that CM Punk was going to come out around hour 2. Very, very surprised they went off the air with just a rah-rah feel-good moment. And I think some people are very underwhelmed with CM Punk's closing of Monday Night Raw tonight because there was no controversy, because it was just, I'm back, I love all you guys. Like, it just felt, I thought he was going to say, I'm sorry. But he instead used the 2 words, I've changed. And the CM Punk, listen, I'm happy he's back. And you're going to have off nights. We probably hyped this a little bit too much. I thought there was going to absolutely be some confrontation tonight with Seth Rollins and CM Punk. Why not immediately get this son of a bitch off? You don't deserve to be here. Don't even allow him to even get a chance to talk. They just let that go. And yes, because of what Drew McIntyre did to Seth Rollins probably was in no condition to confront CM Punk later on in the show. But you would think that, when CM Punk was saying that there's nothing but love in the back, some people even kissed me on the mouth. It's like anybody should have come out and called his ass out, hypocrite. But we didn't get any of that tonight. And the idea that Randy Orton was taking on I honestly thought Randy versus Dominic was going to close out Raw tonight, and CM Punk was either going to be the opener of Raw or the beginning of hour 2 at the minimum. We did not get that tonight. But we did get this Jelly Roll guy. He was in the back earlier, and, he's with Alpha Academy. He's with the New Day, and, he's interacting with them. The big thing to come out of this, other than the R-Truth comedy, which has been missed, obviously, is that in the tag team turmoil match, for some reason, Otis wants to team with Tozawa. Now, on any planet, unless you're on some type of weird medicinal substances, why would Otis choose Akira Tozawa over Chad Gable? I thought that was absolutely dopey, and I got news for you. The first half of this tag team turmoil match tonight was not well received by the fans. And when I say what I'm about to say, I took the notes, and you could go back and watch it and challenge me if I'm wrong in anything that I'm saying right now. The tag team turmoil match went down. DIY opened up with Akira Tozawa and Otis. And DIY beat Alpha Academy with hitting the meeting in the middle on Akira Tozawa. Crowd did not react at all. There was no pop whatsoever. And this is a problem. I am a big fan of Johnny Gargano. I'm a big fan of Tommaso Ciampa. If you follow the ratings every week, when we talk about those two guys, you know what I'm talking about. We don't need to revisit it tonight, but tonight, again, just dead, no reaction. And something with Imperium a little bit later with Gunther has me scratching my head. I don't know if anybody picked up on it, but Gunther said something tonight which made no sense, in my opinion. I'll get to that momentarily. But DIY beats Alpha Academy, no reaction whatsoever. Next, we have Indus Sher. And it looks like Veer Mahan and, maybe got a little soft in the midsection a little bit, maybe gained a couple of pounds. But Veer Mahan goes to, he has Chad Gable. He has Johnny Gargano in the corner. And he runs to the corner to splash Gargano, but Gargano gets out of the way. Gargano rolls up Veer Mahan and gets the win in about 3 minutes. No crowd reaction again. So now the Creed brothers come out, and the Creed brothers are going up against DIY. And finally, the crowd starts picking it up a little bit. The Creed brothers and DIY have chemistry there. And the Creed brothers ultimately would hit the Brutus ball to Johnny Gargano and get the pin. So now DIY is eliminated. And again, all this gushing about Dragon Lee for the last 2 weeks. For every Dragon Lee, there's a Gargano, a Indy Hartwell, a Xia Li, a Tommaso, that, if you really split hairs, there's a lot of people that just something is not connecting. And I don't think it's their fault, but the crowd is there was a Johnny Wrestling chant tonight. I'm not saying this crowd was completely dead, but when we cover the ratings, I guarantee you when we cover the ratings on Wednesday, that quarter with DIY and Indus Sher up to that point, you're going to see it. And it's probably a little unfair because that followed Randy Orton. It's probably a little unfair, but it is what it is. So the Creed brothers advance. So now they take on the New Day. And, the crowd is, now finally getting into this match a little bit. Julius catches Kofi Kingston, who dove off the top rope. They hit the Brutus ball on Kofi, and they advance. So now they go up against Imperium. And it's Giovanni Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser trying to be on the same page. And, one thing that made me feel good tonight about those fans, and it's something that has changed over the years. There was a spot, and if you saw Raw tonight, you know the spot I'm talking about, that Julius Creed set up the Brutus ball on Ludwig Kaiser, okay? Giovanni Vinci pushes Brutus off of the rope. So now Imperium is trying to get the upper hand on Brutus Creed. Out of nowhere, when Vinci has Brutus, bent over, here comes Julius Creed, and what he was supposed to do is run across his partner's back, jump onto the top rope, and hit the superplex on Ludwig Kaiser. And when he ran across his partner's back, he slipped, and he landed in on the mat. But Michael Cole, you got to give him props for this, because he was exactly right on what he said. How the fuck did he land and still was able to land and still jump to the top rope? I know what some of you are going to say. Yeah, we've seen some wrestlers who will be planted on the ring and then jump up to the top rope. There are some people that could do that. RVD is probably the most legendary. But the way he slipped, he didn't even have his balance. And he somehow regained composure and jumped to the top rope and hit the superplex on Ludwig Kaiser. But what really made me feel good is because if this was 10 years ago, I guarantee you, because back then crowds would get a kick out of it. They would have chanted, "You fucked up. You fucked up. You fucked up." You don't see that or hear that as much anymore. They will, if they see someone really working hard and trying hard, things are not going to be picture perfect all the time. And I really appreciated the fact that crowd didn't jump all over Julius Creed for that little mishap tonight. But he recouped, hit the superplex on on Ludwig Kaiser. And then the crowd immediately proceeded to "This is awesome" chants. So for the first half of the match, the crowd was dead. Once the Creed brothers got into it with DIY and won those next couple of matches, crowd was into them. And sure enough, the Creed brothers defeat Imperium. So they are now the new #1 contenders for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. Now, if you have followed the last show that I did yesterday, because I was gone for 5 days, you know that Finn Balor and Damian Priest are losing those tag titles soon. Once they lose those belts, that's pretty much close to Judgment Day for Damian Priest. How do you all feel if it's the Creed brothers to do the unthinkable, to have the upset and beat Finn Balor and Damian Priest for those tag titles? I think that is very, very possible. I'm not sold yet, but even Finn Balor, the segment that immediately followed this, we had the Judgment Day in the back, and Finn Balor is looking at Damian Priest, and Finn Balor is even saying to Damian Priest, he's like, "Come on, those Creed brothers, they're the real deal. We have to take them seriously. We can't take them lightly." And even though Finn Balor's talking about the Creed brothers, which obviously they're not facing them tonight, but Finn Balor is a little bit concerned. He thinks the Creed brothers are the real deal. And Damian Priest, all he could think about is his failure from WarGames. Damian Priest is looking at everyone. He's like, go ahead. Go ahead. I could see it in everybody's eyes. Tell me, I failed. I took the loss. I failed. And Rhea Ripley, she at first a little bit consoling. And Rhea Ripley is saying, look, we're family. It was only one loss. And Finn Balor's like, yeah, we're still good. And Damian Priest's like, seriously? For real? And they're like, yeah, everything is fine. And then Rhea Ripley with a little subtle dig, Like, hey, Damian, you chose, to be the leader of the Judgment Day. And even though you failed at that, like, we're family. Well, we pick up, that's what families do. So Damian Priest is like, all right, we're all good. And, he goes to check on JD McDonough. But like I said, when Damian Priest walked off, you didn't see any, like, stare with Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley, like, what we got to do. None of that happened. So now you almost feel like Damian Priest is probably going to be the one to be pinned when they lose those tag titles. If you tuned into my Survivor Series predictions last Monday, the only thing we didn't talk about was CM Punk's return. But every match outcome, even the eliminations in WarGames for both matches, every prediction was 100%. I said Damian Priest would be pinned. I said Bayley would be pinned. Everybody else was convinced that Damage Control was winning in WarGames. Everything, and I think Damian Priest is now going to start going on a little bit of a losing streak. And they're going to play it off that he is the weak link in the Judgment Day. He's got to go. Once they drop those tag titles, he's got to go. And then down the line, when we get to it, Finn Balor will probably be the next to go. But right now, Finn Balor is just acing being a heel. He is just nailing it. I mean, Finn Balor, you could see he is having a lot of fucking fun with it. But Damian Priest, he's a little concerned at first. But Judgment Day tells him, look, it's only one loss. We're fine. We'll pick up from there. No worries. So now we get Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes hits the ring. Cody Rhodes, so what do you want to talk about? He wants to thank each and every member of his team at WarGames that they were the victors. And the crowd is eating it up. He's got an announcement tonight. Raw was announcements tonight. Raw is promo. Because for me, all the highlights tonight, outside of the Creed brothers, because I really like the Creed brothers getting this opportunity. But everything memorable tonight was with the microphone more than anything else, even though Drew got a little physical. But Cody Rhodes making an announcement that he is going to be the first participant in the Royal Rumble. And Michael Cole later on saying, Cody Rhodes looking to enter the Royal Rumble to finish the story without mentioning Roman Reigns' name. Unfortunately, that will have a little bit of a roadblock because while Cody Rhodes is in the ring, here comes what still blows me away. When I read Shitskeeda and some of these other people tonight, and they're like, I can't believe that Shinsuke was getting Cody. Did anybody ever do? I'm like, come on, man. They can't be this dumb. But Shinsuke Nakamura pops up on the screen. I was very patient with you week after week. Now you need to continue your story. And Cody needs to apologize. You need to set me free. You need to awaken me. You need me to evolve. And Shinsuke Nakamura is calling out Cody Rhodes. And the lights come on. And Cody looks a little bit confused. And Cody is like, you know what? That's my cue to turn around. And sure enough, Cody Rhodes turns around and Shinsuke Nakamura spits the red mist in his eyes. And the officials come into the ring to tend on Cody. And Shinsuke Nakamura, doing his best Andy Kaufman. Thank you very much. He was ecstatic. He calls out Cody Rhodes. So for a few weeks, we will have Shinsuke Nakamura and Cody Rhodes. I am buying in. I think it's going to be spectacular. And I also think we will get CM Punk and Shinsuke Nakamura sooner than later. I think we get CM Punk versus Finn Balor sooner than later. Yesterday, when we were talking about some of the guys or who their first feuds would be, now we see immediately that they're going to take their time with Seth Rollins and CM Punk. There'll be some indirect shots, but when will be the week that they are face-to-face in the ring? And they're going to let that crowd anticipate it. Because the minute Seth Rollins hit that ring today, CM Punk. I was a little surprised that, and I wonder if any of you thought about this, when CM Punk hit the ring in the end, were you surprised that we did not get any of the Nashville fans going, oh, like serenading Seth Rollins' music? I honestly thought we were going to get the fans, although excited that CM Punk is back, they're not going to just desert Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins has been there week after week after week. He never left. He's broken his back, pun intended, for WWE. I was a little bit surprised that Nashville did not serenade Seth Rollins while CM Punk was in that ring. But that will happen. Might happen next week. WWE may have to force it a little bit out of the fans. But in no time, you will have those fans chanting even louder, CM Punk, CM Punk, when Seth is in the ring. And when Punk is in the ring, you will hear the serenading. And it'll get to the point where they got to confront each other. But yesterday it was a little too early. We had to see what goes down tonight to get a feel of where we go from here. And CM Punk is obviously going to be wrestling soon. They're not going to wait till the Royal Rumble to have CM Punk in that ring. In fact, I would be shocked if CM Punk does not wrestle within the next 2 weeks. Not next week. They didn't advertise it for next week. I think the following week, or at the latest 2 weeks after. And remember, 3 weeks from now is Christmas. So I think CM Punk will absolutely have a match before Christmas. It will happen. Question is who? And I think it could very well be one of the persons. Maybe not Nakamura, because Nakamura will still be doing it with Cody. You know, we don't have a match yet between those two guys. But a match that went down tonight that had kind of a caca finish, but at least we know we're going to get more of it. It was this. We had Ivar taking on Bronson Reed. And, you know, WWE wants us to think that Ivar's getting a push. And Ivar's getting TV time. TV time sometimes could be a push even if there's losses involved. I don't know if anybody feels that one day it's going to be Ivar's day. I don't feel that. It's nothing against Ivar. I am absolutely enjoying what he's doing right now. But to me, it feels like filler than anything else. Bronson Reed is being seasoned for Australia. Elimination Chamber, February. That is a lot closer than you think, because next week we will be in December. So Elimination Chamber is only about 2 weeks away. Bronson Reed is going to have a spot in the Elimination Chamber. He probably will not win it. Then I'd be shocked to shit if that happens. But he will have an amazing appearance in it. And tonight they had these two guys very, very even. You couldn't get a feel who was going to come out on this. We had some spots, some big high-risk spots where, you know, you dived and no water was in the pool. But unfortunately, the finish was very, very crappy. These two guys started battling outside the ring. Valhalla got ejected in the midst of the match. They're brawling around ringside. The referee is counting. The referee gets to 7, and these two guys decide, instead of going towards the ring, they're going to go over the barricade. So what ends up happening? The referee counts to 10. We get a double count out, and then we get some crazy shit between these two guys. You have fucking Ivar doing cannonballs off of equipment. I think I have even a screenshot of part of it. These two guys brawled to the outside, went over the barricades. Bronson Reed with a Death Valley driver onto steel chairs. Crowd is chanting holy shit. Crowd was dead up until the brawl to the outside, and they went into the crowd. They even squashed a couple of security guards in the process. But, you know, this is going to lead to another match between these two guys. And, you know, give me more. But unfortunately, the double count out was kind of crappy. So, yeah, they always censor the insults because of the advertisers, my friends. It is TVPG. I don't like when they censor out the chants. I get it. I see when people post on social media, even tonight, WWE, you're on cable. Why are you censoring it? Because the advertisers do not want the strong language. It is not brain surgery. That is the reason why. It's not that WWE is so fucking strict that they can't allow an expletive here and there. It's just, but look, at least in WarGames, they didn't censor out. We had some holy shit chants at WarGames. I don't remember it being censored out. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know I definitely heard some, and none of it was that I remember was censored. But when it comes to television, the advertisers do not want the strong language. If you look at Raw, I know people don't pay attention to it, but at the beginning of Raw, then, woo! It says TV, PG, and all you see is V. You ever watch SmackDown when it opens? If you smell. When you see the corner TV, PG, what do you see? You see VD. You see a couple of letters. Violence, dialogue. On Fox, for SmackDown, they have it rated that there's a warning for 3 or 4 different things. For Raw, all you see is V for violence. They cannot allow the language. That is why it is censored. I don't like it, but that's the reason why. So, to be continued with Bronson Reed and Ivar. We had a little comedy segment tonight. Zoe Stark, almost beat Rhea Ripley. Yeah, sure. Shayna Baszler, hey, you've only been here for 6 months and, you already got an opportunity. This and that. Nia Jax shows up and Shayna Baszler with a little bit of a flashback. Why don't you shut your hole? Remember? My hole! Remember? Shayna Baszler going back to that, telling Nia Jax to shut her hole. Zoe Stark trying hard to go over as a baby face. Maybe I should shut you up today. Maybe I should go to the ring and take care of business. And Nia is like licking her lips. She's like, that's exactly what I wanted. So we get a match between Nia Jax and Zoe Stark. And unfortunately, Zoe Stark, she tried. I got news for you. I'm not going to go on this shit campaign with Zoe Stark. I thought for many, many weeks when she was in NXT that she was on a fast track to the main roster. WWE has just not done a great job with her since she's been on the main roster. But I actually, as weird as this sounds, I enjoyed Zoe's match against Nia Jax tonight more than I enjoyed the match against Rhea Ripley. I don't know if anybody else felt the same way as me, but I enjoyed the match tonight more than Survivor Series. Just my opinion. So then we get more comedy in the back. This time, as we said earlier with R-Truth, he's eating jelly rolls, guys. They're like, what kind of pastry are those? Jelly roll, get it? The Nashville artist is there. He's eating jelly rolls. He's got powdered sugar all over his face. This is when he thought he was going to be the 5th member of WarGames, and Damian Priest like, we already had WarGames. And R-Truth's like, how'd I do? We lost. Don't remind me. So that was a funny segment. This had me scratching my head. Did anybody pick up on it? Gunther is seen with Giovanni Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser. And Gunther tells both guys, you better go to Adam Pearce and take care of that DIY problem next week. Didn't they already take care of that problem a couple of weeks ago? Didn't Vinci help? And then Creed brothers beat them tonight. Why would Gunther focus on the DIY when it was the Creed brothers that beat Imperium tonight? If you're going to do that, then why not just have DIY face Imperium tonight. Imperium could win by cheating, but then, something stupid could happen afterwards where it feels like there's unfinished business between both teams. The Creed brothers handed them the loss, and Gunther's like, take care of that DIY problem. I thought that was stupid. And what's going to happen next week? DIY is going to beat these two guys again, and then Kaiser is going to fuck up, and then Kaiser will ultimately get, the shot at Gunther. I don't know when it's exactly going to happen, but they are planting the seeds to have Gunther take on Ludwig Kaiser. That is a match WWE wants to see happen. I do not want Imperium to split up. I get it. At some point, Damian Priest has got to leave Judgment Day. I get it. At some point, Bayley's got to leave Damage Control. I get it. Ridge Holland is probably leaving the Brawling Brutes. But do we need every fucking faction to have somebody leave? Like right now? Like, what? Alpha Academy is the only faction really that there's no feel of any? No, I don't think Imperium needs to split. I think they do a good job. The tag team division is very, very shaky. Let's be honest. In this year, since they've been back, have done nothing. And tonight was embarrassing, with all due respect. The Creed brothers, you want the Creed brothers to shine, but you want Creed brothers to shine amongst a lot of teams to shine. I mean, isn't it better when somebody comes out on top and everybody else is also kicking ass and you still come out on top? You don't want to be on top because everybody else sucks. And this tag team division is a little weak. If you split up Imperium, this is arguably the best technically sound tag team on Raw, next to maybe Gargano and Ciampa, which unfortunately have not totally clicked with the WWE Universe. So we'll see what happens, but that's what we have to look forward to next week. Now, right after Vinci and Kaiser leave, here comes The Miz. And it's exactly what we thought was going to happen. The Miz was going to put up a valiant effort at Survivor Series. After the match is over, Gunther will show respect to The Miz. Tonight, The Miz confronted Gunther and said that he believes that he can beat Gunther. Kind of like Chad Gable reincarnated. And Gunther gives Miz his flowers, as people like to say these days. Miz showed that he's not a joke. And Gunther acknowledges that Miz put up a valiant effort and actually brought it. But unfortunately, that's Gunther. And Gunther, even though he appreciates The Miz and the fight he put, Gunther is like, nah. Gunther doesn't believe that The Miz is any viable threat. So now we start getting towards the latter part of Raw tonight, and Seth Rollins hits the ring. Seth Rollins, a little bit more stylish tonight, I think, than, with his goofy outfits is a little bit over the top. Tonight, I think a little bit more stylish. He comes out very, very sleek, very slick. He's got the championship belt wrapped around his waist, and the crowd is serenading him, and he takes the glasses off, and he's got a little bit of a serious look on his face. And there's a decent number of fans that are chanting CM Punk. CM Punk, and Seth Rollins is like, go ahead, guys. Come on. CM Punk fans, get it out of your system. I don't want to spend one more moment about that hypocrite. He wants to talk about the World Heavyweight Championship. And he talks about WarGames. He's still a little bit banged up, but he starts to get into his groove that he's a fighting champion. He's got that itch to be a fighting champion again. And he brings up that he talked to Adam Pearce, and before you know it, the guy that everybody said walked out again, wasn't going to be back anytime soon. Here comes Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre walks to the ring, and this was weird. it was a little, I shouldn't say weird, it was odd. I'm sure you all saw it. As Drew is walking to the ring, he's slapping hands with the fans. Slapping hands like he's full-blown babyface. And he goes into the ring, and he extends his hand to Seth Rollins. And he says, the Judgment Day, they gave me promises. They gave me Jey Uso, his head on the platter. They didn't deliver. And he wants to give, props to Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins shakes his hand. And, we're like, okay, where is this turn coming? And Drew McIntyre brings up Crown Jewel. And Drew is like, Seth, do you remember what you said at Crown Jewel? And Seth's like, yeah, I remember. And, Seth Rollins is talking about, that he said that, Drew, you have no one to blame but yourself. And Drew McIntyre starts talking about a story during the match where he had Seth Rollins beat. I had you beat. And he had this momentary lapse that he thought about Seth Rollins' well-being. He thought about his daughter. He thought about other things. And that was when Seth Rollins capitalized. And when Seth Rollins even slapped him, Drew deserved the slap. And Drew McIntyre wants to look ahead, ahead from Jey Uso. And Drew McIntyre says if he wants to swim with the sharks, he cannot show compassion. He cannot have sympathy. He wants a rematch. So Seth Rollins admits that he believes that Drew McIntyre deserves another match. But right now, Seth Rollins believes that others have more of an opportunity. And next week on Raw, Seth Rollins is going to have a match defending the World Heavyweight Championship. He talked to Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce made the match. Drew McIntyre looks at Seth Rollins and says, if you mind me asking, who are you facing? And Seth Rollins says the two words that you cannot say to Drew McIntyre. He says, Jey Uso. Drew McIntyre headbutts, Seth Rollins headbutts the fucking championship. You don't really see it much over here, but Drew McIntyre immediately broke skin and he was bleeding on the forehead a little bit. And he picks up Seth Rollins. Now the crowd is booing the shit out of Drew McIntyre once again. And I got news for you. If you play it back, when Seth declined Drew McIntyre about facing him for the championship again, there was a decent amount of boos. I think that crowd wants to see that rematch. When Seth declined and said, others deserve it a little more, that crowd was not very, very thrilled with that answer. Once they heard that Seth told Adam Pearce, I want to defend the title against Jey Uso, Drew McIntyre snapped. Now, Jey Uso would make the save. But after Jey Uso and Seth Rollins double super kicked Drew McIntyre, Drew leaves the ring and he's got this big smirk on his face. And at the same time, Jey Uso is looking at that championship. That championship looks awfully nice. So next week, we're going to have this match. But we get a little bit of rinse and repeat. My friends, if this looked a little bit familiar to you, it should. Because after this segment, Sami Zayn is in the back with Drew McIntyre. Sami Zayn is like, what was that all about? And Drew McIntyre, doesn't really say anything. And Sami Zayn's like, look, I get it. You lost against Roman Reigns in your hometown. Guess what? It happened to me too. And Sami Zayn's like, you were a two-time champion. Look at you. And he says, you're 6'5" and this and that. And Sami is gunning for the World Heavyweight Championship as well. But he tells Drew McIntyre that you're acting more like a spoiled brat. So Drew McIntyre says, maybe you're right. And he says, maybe I should, start at the bottom, work my way back up. In fact, I'm going to talk to Adam Pearce right now, and I'm going to have him make me a match next week against you. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. Whoa. Well, it wasn't even 4 weeks ago when Drew McIntyre was hunting all the allies of Jey Uso, and he took on Sami Zayn. We had tonight almost the identical, because a month ago, Drew McIntyre was going for Seth Rollins' championship. They fought at Crown Jewel. A month ago, I think it was the 23rd of October, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because the 31st is a Tuesday. That was Halloween. It was the week before Halloween, the 23rd of October. Drew McIntyre, he beat up Sami Zayn. So they're bringing that match back next week, which is fine. But again, I think you have to ultimately, the end picture has got to be Drew McIntyre as World Heavyweight Champion. Get that championship off of Seth Rollins, and then you will see what they do with CM Punk. WrestleMania is still a long ways away, but man, after tonight, I can't help but to get that in my mind. Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins versus AJ Lee and CM Punk. You almost feel like it's got to happen. It certainly feels like it's got to happen. So, just to wrap up Raw tonight, we had Chelsea Green and Piper Niven successfully retain the women's tag team championships. This was a good match. Ultimately, in the end, no contest. Piper Niven does a beautiful cannonball to the outside of the ring onto Tegan Nox and Natalya. I was a little concerned for Tegan Nox for a minute because it looked like she might have been injured. So Piper Niven rolls Tegan Nox back in the ring, does a running flying body press, and pins Tegan Nox. So they retain the tag team championships. Where you go with the women's tag team championships from here, I don't know. I kind of feel, we were talking about it yesterday. I think in the very near future, we could end up seeing something like Bayley, Becky, and Charlotte versus Damage Control. Bayley, Becky, and Charlotte versus the three members of Damage Control, not Dakota Kai. She can't wrestle. Does it happen at the Royal Rumble? Probably not, because that's too many women to keep out of the Royal Rumble match. But that could be down the line once Bayley is booted out of Damage Control. Remember what we talked about yesterday. And don't forget, tomorrow night, Kev Castle and yours truly, we have a loaded night coming, because tomorrow we're not only going to briefly review Survivor Series, we're also going to talk about a lot of aftermath. And after tonight's Raw, we got some good clarity as far as where we see certain things going. So we purposely waited until Tuesday because we didn't want to do it Sunday night and be like, I wonder what's going to happen on Raw. I wonder what CM Punk's going to say. I wonder what's going to happen with this. Now we have some good ideas of where some things are going. After we do the review and aftermath of Survivor Series tomorrow night, Kevin and I are also going to be doing a Q&A that we gave everybody an opportunity to post a question in the community section. We got a boatload of questions. We're going to fly through them tomorrow, so we will have the Q&A. That'll be posted later on in the week for everybody. So tomorrow we do a double taping, double recording. So here's the backstage segment that found me intrigued. Jey Uso bumps into Randy Orton. And Jey Uso is like, look, I looked for you before you looked for me. I heard you earlier saying you want to hand out receipts to all the members of the bloodline. Cody gave me a second chance, and I'm trying to do things right. And Randy Orton looks at Jey Uso, and Randy Orton is acknowledging that, he puts a lot of trust in Cody, and Cody giving Jey Uso the second chance. And Randy Orton basically says to Jey Uso that as long as you're out of the bloodline, we're good. And Jay's like, you serious? Randy's like, yeah. As long as you're out of the bloodline, we're good. We get a little handshake. Never trust a snake. That RKO is coming soon, Jay. We don't know exactly when, but Randy Orton is going to RKO Jey Uso. Then that makes the Cody Rhodes factor with Randy Orton a little bit intriguing. The more you hear them say, my dear friend, my dear friend, my dear friend, the more you can guarantee yourself that those dear friends are going to be fighting each other before WrestleMania. Yeet. So, Becky Lynch, very, very odd appearance. Yes, battered from WarGames. She had a little cut in the eye, little banged up, but it almost felt like, oh, we got 45 seconds to kill. Let's have Becky Lynch cut a promo. And Jackie Redmond interviews Becky Lynch right before the main event. And Becky, is just talking about WarGames for a brief second, teasing almost like she's looking for a fight. She walks off. And I'm seeing a segment, and I'm like, okay, what was the point of that? It was cool. The man is in Nashville. Great. We didn't see anything else with her afterwards. And I thought, could they possibly have Becky Lynch come out and start talking trash to CM Punk? That would be kind of strange. I think you don't want to upstage Seth Rollins in this feud. But we didn't get any more appearance from Becky Lynch. We get the main event, which was Randy Orton taking on Dominic Mysterio. This was, I don't want to say a Gaga match, because they definitely put a lot of effort into this. Randy Orton, they're going to bring back slowly. Michael Cole and Corey Graves are doing a great job explaining to fans that Randy Orton, with the double back fusion surgery, they're focusing more that he has to change how he works out, that he's focusing more on stamina. You look at the guy's body and you're like, that's stamina? The guy looks like a monster. Randy Orton looks bigger than he did before, and that's not because he was at Quiznos every week. He is bulked, strong. And they're saying, oh, he's just, he's focusing more on stamina. What stamina? Let me lift on, 100 pounds and, 100 times in a minute instead of 50? Like, that's the only stamina I could think of. He's a monster. He comes back. Dominic did exactly everything he needed to do. We talked about it yesterday. You have Randy Orton and or CM Punk beat up the people that the fans truly get under their skin. Dominic Mysterio is one of them. You have Dominic Mysterio coming out there. Dominic, taking bumps like crazy for Randy Orton. Dominic got some offense in. He went for the frog splash and missed it. He went for the 619, nailed it. JD McDonough is out there, and we get a little bit of comedy towards the latter part of the match. You got Jelly Roll at ringside, and JD McDonough confronts him, so Jelly Roll just like shoves him away. Dominic Mysterio, do you know who I am? And Jelly Roll shoves him as well. Randy Orton gives a little bit of a bump to Jelly Roll in appreciation. And sure enough, Randy Orton dumps Dominic Mysterio twice on the announcer's table. Did it one time and it looked brutal. Listen, not as bad as the Singh brothers, but if any of you know what I'm talking about, there's that infamous clip of Randy Orton dropping one of the Singh brothers on the announcer's table. This with Dominic was not as brutal, but it was enough where the fans were going, one more time. Give Dominic credit, because Dominic, was willing to take it again, and he got dropped the second time. And sure enough, Randy Orton gets back in the ring, hits the RKO on Dominic Mysterio, gets the pin. Randy Orton looks good, happy to be back. And, I know, as we talked about yesterday, some people feel that Randy Orton was a little bit overshadowed because of the return of CM Punk. But I think that's a good thing because Randy Orton, regardless of how amazing he looks, regardless that he could still go in the ring, he did have double fusion surgery. It's not like, oh, that's in the past and it doesn't affect me anymore. He had double back fusion surgery for a reason, and your body is not meant to be fused. Your body's not meant to have extra things inside it. So Randy Orton has to be careful, especially in the latter years of his life in the ring. It's the same thing as Adam Copeland and others. After a while, you have to start thinking like, hey, I don't want to live the rest of my life in a wheelchair. You have to be careful. If you pay close attention to Adam Copeland in AEW, he still goes. He still is great. But you could see that they have definitely pulled back on Adam Copeland, to prolong his career more. Just like AJ Styles, just like others. You don't get New Japan AJ Styles. You get little hints and teasers here and there, Finn Balor as well. And the reason why they do that is because they want these guys to be able to stay around for another 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, depending on who you're talking about. So, unfortunately, and I hate to say it like this, to close out Raw, CM Punk appeared. Now, he appeared 5 minutes before Raw went off the air. Was it bad? No. It was good. I enjoyed it. Was it underwhelming? Absolutely. Did it lack confrontation? Definitely. But I will tell you this, and I'm only mentioning her because some of you out there have significant others that are wrestling fans, but maybe not CM Punk fans. My wife is not a big CM Punk fan. She's just, she doesn't watch AEW. So she has not really seen much of CM Punk because he left WWE 10 years ago. So she sees a little bit of CM Punk when I would watch AEW, like he would come on the TV here and there. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because when CM Punk came out tonight to close out Raw, my wife's immediate reaction was, oh, he's only got 5 minutes to talk. And I looked at the clock. I was like, holy shit, yeah, it's 10:55. WWE doesn't get overtime. And absolutely, they're not doing it for Barmageddon. Barmageddon, they're not starting that shit late. So they're going off the air at 11 o'clock. So CM Punk comes out there. And honestly, guys, no one expected the reaction like he got in Chicago. It's different. In Chicago, CM Punk hits different. That roar was amazing Saturday. You felt it. I replayed it over and over. I watched different camera angles. I even saw when Michael Cole went like this, like he was throwing a pen in the crowd. You saw it when Michael Cole, he looked like the gopher from Caddyshack when CM Punk's music was playing. And, Corey Graves, just like this the entire time, no reaction at all. But when the music hit tonight, if you look at that crowd, the crowd, you would have thought CM Punk was on WWE television for years. And I mean, not gone for 10 years. You didn't get that immediate, welcome back, welcome back. You didn't get, holy shit, holy shit. When CM Punk hit the ring and went like this, yeah, you see one kid with his arms up in the air, like, look, I didn't wear deodorant today. But you look at that crowd, it was not, I think, the unbelievable, insane, losing my shit reaction that some people on social media gave you today. Epic, amazing, unbelievable, greatest Raw I expect since the Attitude Era. Like they need that almost heroin-like rush. Yeah, he's back. Enjoy it. But was it going to be this unbelievable? How do you come even close to Saturday? You can't, because a lot of people, even though some thought CM Punk could return at Survivor Series, I think people realistically, because no one had sources, nobody had any connections that CM Punk was returning. Nick Khan, Triple H, CM Punk, the dog, Larry, nobody out there was communicating with any of those people. So it was a lack of reporters that actually had connections that, oh, there's been discussing, there's talks that it could happen any day. There was none of that. It was just people guessing. They had a 50-50 chance of getting it right. Just like Mercedes Moné. In the end, when Triple H said what he said at the press conference, that should have given you the education that there's not one reporter out there that had contact directly to Triple H, Nick Khan, AJ Lee, CM Punk, CM Punk's attorney, Larry the Dog, Buck the Schmuck. They had nobody. They just guessed, thought, maybe. And again, we had this discussion yesterday. I'm not bringing it up again now. But just use common sense in this. Do you think Triple H would not tell Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, or anyone else in that locker room beforehand that someone who is viewed as a cancer, who spent the last couple of years just throwing shade to WWE, just was not a WWE fan whatsoever, The Miz, and you think that Triple H would turn his company upside down, split that roster in the middle for the people that do not like CM Punk and did not tell him beforehand? I brought him back. We're going to make money. Trust me. This runs deep with a lot of people that work there. Triple H is not going to piss off his loyal employees that are there week in and week out and week in and week out and built up that fan base. They're not going to go rogue on TKO Group Holdings. TKO Group Holdings trust them. Hey, I trust you. Do it. Let's see where it goes. So when Seth Rollins does what he does, you think Triple H is going to fuck his world heavyweight champion that hard? And Seth Rollins had no idea Saturday night that was happening? Come on. Why would Triple H do that? It's insane to even think that. But CM Punk came back tonight, and quite honestly, it lacked something. Saying that I've changed, yes, he has changed. He's grown up. He is married now 9 years. He's older. He just went through what he went through in AEW. But coming out there, when he said that I'm not, what I used to be, because he's changed, he's grown. I don't think fans wanted to hear that. Fans want the pipe bomb. Fans want the rogue CM Punk that is going to say something to piss somebody the fuck off. They wanted CM Punk to go there with AEW, which I told you yesterday will not happen. They will not go there. It's not even about legalities. It's just, we're not even going to give Tony Khan a reason to go on social media and say, fuck you too. Fuck you twice. They're not even going to give that reason. But still, there are enough fans out there that want the pipe. There are fans out there that are clamoring for Edge to trash WWE. Did you see Edge's interview with, what's his face? I can't remember his name right now. It always escapes me. Someone in the chat will bail me out. But, they were playing up on it with the interview, like, say one thing bad about WWE. Say something about the other company. And Edge is laughing. Edge is like, no, there's nothing bad for me to say. But fans want someone in the chat's going to know. People are getting it wrong. That means they don't know. Who's the guy that co-hosts with Renee Paquette? You know what I'm talking about. The guy in AEW that co-hosts with Renee Paquette and does Hey Now. I'm drawing a blank. RJ City. Thank you, Devin. RJ City. Go seek out that little interaction with RJ City and Edge, Adam Copeland. Fans want that scumbag CM Punk to an extent. And tonight, CM Punk was, I'm home. I missed you guys. I love you guys. As much as we believe, I truly believe in my core that CM Punk has fallen in love with wrestling again. couple of years ago. Yes, a lot of dollar signs came with it, but I truly believe for a while CM Punk was like, fuck wrestling. I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm not interested. I don't care what you throw at me. I don't like wrestling anymore. I think CM Punk fell in love with wrestling. I truly believe that. But when he comes out there today, I missed you guys. I'm back. I'm home. You know, sometimes you're home because no one else wants to take you in or could keep you in. You know, WWE happens to be his longest home. Ring of Honor was his home from back in the day. But he's home now because AEW cannot be his home. Ring of Honor cannot be his home. Impact Wrestling doesn't have enough nice furniture to be his home. He's home because this has to be his home. If he is going to remain in wrestling and make a good living out of it and become even more legendary, WWE has to be his home. But the speech tonight was about being back, and you know, it was a little bit scattered, because in one moment he's saying that there was nothing but love in the back, but then he acknowledged that there's some people out there that are scared because the best of the world is back, and I amped it up a notch. And maybe some people are scared that I'm back to bring it. You know, I mean, that's pretty much what he said. But, you know, when he was talking about that, oh, in the back, there's nothing but love, and even some people even kiss me on the mouth and this, and that, you almost felt like a swerve was coming. Did anybody think that CM Punk was, for a brief moment, turned around and would have said, fuck you all? Not curse, but you know what I mean? Like, it just felt too positive. And I think that edge, no pun intended, with CM Punk tonight, it was there. The presence was there. It's still surreal to realize a couple of months ago, he's in Wembley in front of 80,000 plus. And a couple of months later, he's not only out of AEW, not only off Collision, but he's on Monday Night Raw. You know, like, it's still surreal. But tonight, closing out Raw, I think it lacked a little bit. I think it needed a little bit of controversy. I think somebody in the back needed to come out and be a little bit pissed off. I get it. There's been so much attention. All the major news organizations covered it. The tens of millions of views. You want it to be as positive as it can right now. You don't want a wrestler to come out there and throw shit on CM Punk. You want everybody outside of wrestling to think this is the most amazing moment in the 20th and 21st century of wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, they want non-wrestling people to think this is just epic, amazing, unbelievable, mind-boggling, record-setting, historic. So the last thing they want is for anybody to come out there and throw a little shit on it just to set up an angle. That's for next week. That's for a week after. That's why I believe we got the ending that we did. So that's why, in hindsight, I'm not criticizing the close of Raw, but to go 3 hours to lead to that, that should have been the opening of Raw, or hour 2. Not wait 2 hours and 55 minutes just to say, I missed you, I'm back, I changed, AJ says hi. I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money. I don't think we should have needed to wait 2 hours and 55 minutes for that. But I enjoyed it. Tonight's Raw, I think, a little bit underwhelming at times, but overall, the people who needed to step up did. Drew McIntyre, spectacular. Seth Rollins, very good. Randy Orton, excellent. Dominic the Bumping Machine and Jada McDonough, yeah. Damian Priest, you know, a little bit paranoia that, you know, he wanted to be the leader and he blew it. You blew it. There was a lot of little things to come out of Raw tonight that were the right way to go. So, all right. I just want to give a little shout out to everybody who have been sending thoughts. Jay Paulin earlier said he enjoyed the CM Punk promo. Absolutely agree. It was good. It was fun. It was surreal. You know, I will say this, when they showed the reactions of all the fans that were doing watch parties and live streaming as they were watching Survivor Series Saturday, like, in the back of my mind, I just thought to myself, I wonder what the reaction of some of the people in AEW were. Not gloating, not rubbing it in their face, but I just wonder if any of them just sat there and like, you prick, you hypocritical asshole. Like, I just wonder how much anger, CM Punk has a lot of friends in AEW. You know, a lot of people don't realize how many friends he's got there. There were a lot of people in AEW. And you know what? This is not even news, but this is a shame. Did you notice it? I'll bring it up now because nobody's going to report it. This is a fucking shame what I'm about to say. You remember when Io Sky won the championship and you had wrestlers across AEW and everywhere else, they were all congratulating her and this and that. And then you had other people, make a return or appearance or some type of milestone, and everybody is looking out for everybody. And Chelsea Green wins a championship. And do you notice that very, 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 very few wrestlers in AEW who are documented good friends of CM Punk did not go on social media to congratulate him, give him props, or to just express a cool moment? All because the boss is who he is, and it would just really go against the grain. Like, listen, some people came out, and I'm not saying that nobody did, but if you look around, it's a shame. It's a fucking shame that some of his friends are forced to silence because they don't want to deal with bullshit ramifications that, I publicly wish my friend well, the guy who fucked over, it's just awful. I think that's a little awful. So, all right. Before we wrap this up, couple little previews. NXT tomorrow. Not a bad show. We got the family taking on Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza. I actually have something to show you about Jerry the King Lawler. Kind of made me sad. I don't know if you saw it earlier today, but I have a video I'm going to share with you in a second. It has to do with NXT. Tomorrow also, this is a little bit of an odd stipulation. We have Wes Lee taking on Bronson Reed, Johnny Gargano, and Cameron Grimes. The three make their NXT return. It's not just a four-way, but if Wes Lee wins, he gets to challenge Dominic Mysterio at Deadline. I hate that stipulation because you're pretty much saying that Wesley has to defeat these guys. Why not just say the winner gets a title shot against Dominic at Deadline? Unless they do something really fucking funny. And the only reason why I don't think they'll do this is because of Bronson Reed. But if there was another baby face there instead of Bronson Reed, I could see a funny segment where they just lay down for Wes Lee because Dominic's going to be at NXT tomorrow. And just to show support for Wes Lee, that they lay down for Wes Lee, and Dominic's like, what the hell was that? Like, Wes Lee gets the title shot, but Bronson Reed, I don't think is going to go along with that. Unless we get some dumb segment early in the night where Bronson Reed bumps into Dominic, and Dominic acts like an asshole to Bronson Reed, and Bronson Reed's like, oh yeah, watch later. So I don't know why they're doing a stipulation like that, but I'll get to the Jerry Lawler clip in a second. Tomorrow we decide another spot in the Deadline matches. We have Oh, yeah, let me put up Jerry Lawler. Let me put up Jerry Lawler. Let me find the clip. Hold on a second. I got it here. Here it is. Okay. Not going to press play yet. Okay. Anybody? We know that Jerry Lawler had the stroke. But does Jerry Lawler look worse than you expected him to be? Like, I was happy to see Jerry the King Lawler. He was back to announce the next Iron Survivor Challenge participants, the qualifying matches. And I looked at him and I was like, he wants to come back to wrestling so bad, and he looks like he is still really not well. It made me sad. I'm going to play a few seconds of Jerry Lawler announcing the matches for the Iron Survivor Challenge qualifiers tomorrow. And even with Jerry Lawler, you could see that he's struggling to, just get the words out. I mean, it's not poor, but you could see that Jerry Lawler, he's fighting the good fight, but he has a long ways to go still. This is Jerry Lawler. You could even hear a couple of clips spliced in. It just made me a little sad. I just wanted to share it because, it didn't get much attention today. And I saw that and I'm like, oh man, I want him to get back to 100%. I don't think he'll ever wrestle ever again. I just hope he could get back a little bit more. So, doesn't sound horrible, but if you listen closely, maybe with an iPhone, when you don't hear bass, it all sounds blended together. But even Kalani Jordan, they had to splice in him saying her name. And he sounds like he has to think about some of the words. There's no animation. There's no emphasis on certain names. It feels like you're reading a script for a commercial. And that's not Jerry the King Lawler. So, all right. Before we get out of here, Dynamite for Wednesday, they are hell-bent on pushing this Continental Classic. I'm not going to criticize the participants. When I saw Jay White hit a low blow to start off this tournament, I'm like, yeah, nothing changes. But they are advertising Roosh versus Mark Briscoe, Jon Moxley versus Jay Lethal. Jay Briscoe, God rest his soul. Mark Briscoe versus Roosh, Jay Lethal versus Jon Moxley, and Jay White versus Swerve Strickland. Bryan Danielson will be on commentary. So that's to make a note. Wednesday also, we're going to talk about MJF and the reports that he has a torn labrum. And remember, a couple of years ago, I had surgery for the torn labrum. It's not as serious of an injury as you think. I mean, he obviously will not be able to lift as much with his right arm, but I'm trying to find out which shoulder it was, and I want to see the extent, because some labrum tears, who knows a lot about labrums? Crowbar, Chris Ford, because he is outside of wrestling. He is, in that field, in the medical field, with rehabilitation, chiropractic, and he knows a lot about labrums. And I'm sure he's going to chime in on this. As far as people in wrestling to go to with stuff like that, he is a good guy to go to with that. So I'll get more information. We'll talk about that Wednesday. Unfortunately, Wednesday, we're going to talk about this. This is the picture that I was talking about yesterday. Oh my God, I can't believe how many people I pissed off with this photo. Simply because I did a play on words, because his intro in AEW now is "You Think You Know Him." So I just put a play on words and I put "You Think You Know Show Him," because he was at an AEW event with 2 rows of fans. The entire building is blacked out. There's nobody. And people are like, oh no, that side, they don't have people there on purpose. Bullshit. Bullshit that one side is intentionally leveled off. We'll talk about that on Wednesday. Got a few things Wednesday. It's going to be a busy week, but let's quickly preview this week in wrestling history. This is a good one. Not going to spend much time in it, but I got a clip. I don't have to play the Vince one again, but I got another Vince one that unless you lived in New York, you probably never heard it before. It's pretty cool, actually. But here's a couple of quick previews. Starrcade 85, it's the anniversary of that. Sean Stasiak, the Stan Stasiak, the father of Sean Stasiak. Infamous match with Antonio Inoki. You know, Tony Khan's cosplay of the month versus Bob Backlund. Didn't have as good of the results as you think. Anybody remember these TV guides? Yeah, they all came out this week in history. My favorite Mick Foley ECW promos of all time. And who could ever forget The Undertaker winning his first WWF championship, closing 2 minutes of the match. And the only reason why I'm playing it was because in 1991, WWF was not used to crowds popping for the bad guy. I don't mean Razor Ramon. Hulk Hogan was still cheered. Hulk Hogan was still the king for the kids. But there were enough adults out there that were kind of happy that one Tuesday in Texas, The Undertaker won, albeit for a few days, the WWF Championship from Hulk Hogan. Thanks to Ric Flair.
Who's not immortal now, Brain? He's still on his feet. The Undertaker is still on his feet. Hulkster continues to unload with a barrage of roundhouse rights. He's down to one knee. The first time he's been down to one knee. This place has gone crazy. Hulkster said he's going to pick up. Oh, what's this? Where's he going? Look, the real world champion. A slam by the Hulkster. What business does he have down there? Well, you better talk to Mr. Perfect about that, or talk to Ric Flair. I don't know. I mean it. I really don't know. Hulkster finally says, "What are you doing down here?" and unloads on Ric Flair. Well, why would he go touch Flair? Flair never touched the ring. He never got involved in the match. What business does Flair have down there? I don't know, but he doesn't deserve to be struck.
The Gonza epic.
From the outside, it's Paul Bear grabbing the leg of the Hulkster. Oh, referee's lost control of this one. Look at this. Flair with a chair, a steel chair.
Tombstone.
He got pile drived right into the steel chair. Wait a minute. One. Come on. Two. Get out. We got a new world champion. We got a new world Federation champion. Woo! What a miscarriage of justice. I told you so. If I was a fan, I'm going to say this, man.
Very cool.
World Wrestling Federation champion, The Undertaker. This is horrendous. 3 guys in took.
Crowd loved it.
It took The Undertaker.
I as I was listening to it, I realized, no, with all the anniversaries of Survivor Series, it was Tuesday in Texas that he lost it. So this was a few days later. Actually, this week is also the anniversary where The Undertaker lost it. He won it, and then he lost it. So we're not going to play any clips of it because, honestly, Vince and Roddy Piper's commentary kind of sucked. But back in 1990, Shane Douglas made his WWF debut. And to hear Vince McMahon calling the Shane Douglas match, I think he took on Iron Mike Sharp. It was a little surreal, but, especially how he was putting over Shane Douglas. Speaking of Vince McMahon, 2 things. Anybody remember the Voodoo Kin Mafia when the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were in TNA and they were doing the VKM gimmick, little shot at Vince McMahon? One night in 2006, they showed up at a WWE event and recorded the footage. It was supposed to air more of it on TNA. WWE threatened to sue. Anybody remember this?
Gonna love where I'm fixing to take you.
Where are we going? In this monster truck, I think he just ran over a school bus.
Knoxville, Tennessee, to a Raw live event show.
No way, they got a live show in Knoxville and that's where we're going?
We have to go talk to the people. We have to. That's just a must.
Talk to the fans
Yes,
there?
talk to the people.
Are you sure there'll be any fans there?
Oh, Jesus.
Bless you. You got snot all over the steering wheel. The Coliseum in Knoxville. We were at your headquarters in Stamford. Heck, we're on the road with you. Only thing we're missing is the dress code and the wellness program. Which one? Michael Hickenbottom and Paul Levesque.
Yeah,
Ladies and gentlemen, dumb to the extreme.
Yeah, there they are. And they're here to perform another skit that's absolutely going to make you throw up.
They were trying to do like a DX invasion, TNA style. It was good. It was all right. By the way, when I was showing on here this clip, unfortunately, Sin Cara, we had to cut off part of his body because I didn't have enough room. But anybody remember what was wrong with Sin Cara's outfit? That was Sin Cara, right? Yeah, that had to be Sin Cara. They came out with a shirt. If you look at the bottom of his outfit, doesn't that look like an erect penis? They had to pull the shirt. I kid you not. Anybody remember that story? That shirt came out on sale. And if you look at some high quality pictures on a Google image search, people were convinced that that looked like an erect penis. And they pulled the shirt. No joke. I think this is the anniversary of the New Day forming, the League of Nations forming. Not only that, Stephanie McMahon, unconscious, marries Triple H. That's a memory that WWE kind of tries to get you to forget. The Broken Hardys in Ring of Honor. Paul Heyman crying. Does anybody remember why Paul Heyman was crying one night in 2006? Who was Paul Heyman advocating at the time? Anybody remember?
This is the blood.
Oh, yeah, let's go back. Let's go back. Here you go.
This is the blood.
Crying.
Of the greatest ECW champion that has ever lived. This is the blood of the greatest giant that has ever walked into a wrestling ring. This is the blood of the man that have loyalty to me, agreed to carry ECW on his back and turn it from a bingo hall promotion into a global phenomenon. This is the blood of a man that got ripped off tonight. It took an extreme elimination chamber. It took a man, a 270, 280 pound man with a weapon in his hand to beat the giant. This is the blood of my friend. On behalf of Extreme Championship Wrestling, it is my obligation to inform everyone that this Tuesday night, the Big Show's rematch clause is being invoked. And it will not be an extreme elimination chamber. And weapons won't be legal. The ECW World title will be on the line. And Bobby Lashley will have to defend the championship against the most dominant athlete in history. The 7-foot-tall, 500-pound Big Show. And it all happens this Tuesday night. I'm done. Thanks.
And that was it with Paul Heyman in ECW. That was his final ECW promo, and ECW was pretty much done shortly thereafter. And Paul Heyman, I think, was gone for a while as well. I leave you with one more clip. And for some of you out there that know the history of Vince McMahon and the steroid trial of the 90s, if any of you ever remember the name Phil Mushnick, I'm sure a lot of you know who that is. There is a journalist in the New York Post. I don't know if he still writes, but for decades, he has always slandered wrestling. For decades, he's been on a mission to close WWE down. I mean, we haven't heard much about him in years, but back in the day, he was the biggest thorn in the side of WWF more than anything. When you had people die, from Eddie Guerrero to others, you had him and some others that would say some absolutely horrible things. In fact, if you ever go back and you listen to or watch the video of my news reports from the 80s, you will see Phil Mushnick on that clip. Somebody saying I sound exactly like Paul Heyman right now. That's what happens when it gets late at night. I start sounding more like Paul Heyman and I got to go to sleep. Believe it, I tell you, I have people that say that to me at times. But on this day in 1995, Vince McMahon was on Raw. And here in New York, we got a promo. It didn't air across the United States. It only aired here in New York. The only reason why we even knew that it only aired in New York was because afterwards, when all of us were chatting online and Prodigy chats, whatever it was, we were locally were talking about his promo against Phil Mushnick. And people that we were talking to in other states were like, what are you talking about? Vince didn't say anything today. So if anybody out there that never heard this, this is Vince McMahon in 1995. When do you ever hear Vince on his television show talking like this?
This is Vince McMahon of the World Wrestling Federation. I've always made it a point to refrain from personal commentary during WWF programming, but please permit me this one exception. As many of you know, several years ago, the World Wrestling Federation and I came under a vicious attack by the tabloid media, led by one Phil Mushnick of the New York Post. It's been the equivalent, in my view, of journalistic stalking. As we found out, these stalkers apparently are not interested in the truth, as they have been heard to say in the tabloid newsroom, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Mr. Mushnick attempted to give credibility to this type of tabloid investigation by telling his readers the feds don't waste money on witch hunts. Now, most people, myself included, naively believe that government prosecutors and their investigators are the good guys. Unfortunately, I found this to not always hold true. I was constantly amazed at the utter lack of ethics of some of the good guys involved in my case, all of whom had demonstrable ties to Mr. Phil Mushnick. I watched the good guys lie to the media, lie to the judge, lie to the jury. I watched the good guys get caught because they tried to pressure my alleged co-conspirator into changing his prior sworn testimony. I watched as the good guys were forced to admit that they had destroyed evidence. And I saw the ultimate impact of the truth when the jury acquitted me and the World Wrestling Federation without us even having to put on a defense or call even one witness. Although I had a great deal to say about this unique life experience at the time after the trial, I did not. However, recent events compel me now to speak. The day before Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving Eve, Mr. Mushnick in the New York Post wrote 2 new articles. One article was entitled, "Tampering Cloud Over Wrestling Big's Trial." It cites unnamed federal sources as suggesting that Marty Bergman, the husband of one of my attorneys, Laura Bavetti.
Now, as you're hearing these names, imagine us, wrestling fans, in 1995, watching Raw and WWF programming and saying, Why is he telling us this? Really, as you hear this, imagine you're watching this. Oh, why is he telling us this? It's almost done.
Tampered with witnesses, obstructed justice, and caused a baseless complaint to be filed against the good guys who were Phil Mushnick's cronies with the Justice Department. The article says that the good guys were exonerated, however, by the Justice Department, even though it's a known fact that one of the case agents is leaving the government, and the prosecutor, Sean O'Shea, is also rumored to be leaving public service. Now, the WWF and I were exonerated by a jury of my peers. None of these good guys have ever been, nor in my view ever would be, exonerated in any fair public hearing as the WWF and I were. The second article actually goes to the absurd depth of quoting the ever-present unnamed sources as questioning the marriage of Laura Bavetti and Marty Bergman. Now, on a personal level, I wish to state that my heart goes out to my attorney, Laura Bavetti, and her husband, Marty Bergman. Laura was an integral part of our defense team, and she defends people with a passion and a vigor that is ennobling to see and experience. I also deeply resent any innuendo or accusation that my acquittal on the charges brought against me by the federal government was in any way tainted by any illegality by me or by my legal representation. These same Keystone cops who wasted taxpayer dollars, these same yellow journalists who had to eat crow for telling lies, are once again incestuously joining forces, trying to drum up support for their own personal agenda, trying to manufacture some reason to save face, attempting to perpetuate some theory of witness tampering. Gentlemen, is that the best you can do? That postulation of witness tampering is about as far-fetched as the charges originally brought against me in the first place. The jury did not believe you then. Why should the public believe you now? Or should yellow journalists conspiring with vengeful federal officials be above reproach or even above the law? I don't think so.
Why did we get this on our TV? Who is he talking to? The only thing that I enjoyed when I heard that, and as I hear it again over the years, is this was before. This was a year before, I think, when he infamously cut that promo, that the idea of bad guy versus good guy is passé. Remember that? I think that's where he got that from, because this is what, a year before good guy, bad guy. Oh man. We had that in 1995 here in New York, and to this day, I don't know why. Who was he talking to? Why did we need to know this? It was pretty wild. It was pretty fun at the time, but hey, us New Yorkers got a little special treat that night. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Vince, you must leave my screen. Tammy, you must leave our wrestling universe. Some people got offended earlier when I said that she'll be eating 7 meals a day. I'm fat. I admit it. I'm trying to lose some weight. But, man, I mean, she's replaced alcohol with food. I mean, that's just totally tragic to see somebody given that many opportunities. But you know what? I've said this too. I also blame the legal system, because the legal system, if they would have given her some hard time, I'm talking 5 years plus, couple of years ago, maybe that could have avoided what happened in Florida. But, hey, she's now got to deal with it. She's been in jail now for 1.5 years. It's been that long. But, yeah, 17 years, man. 17 years. Jesus. All right. I'm out of here. I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. I know we went a little bit later than we usually do. But, hey, We had an interesting Raw tonight with some important things to talk about. And I hope you check out the shows later this week. We're trying to keep the time stamps, at a minimum, because we know that, you can't dedicate 10 hours a week, for content. So this week, Kevin and I, like I said, tomorrow, we're going to just get right into some Survivor Series talk, aftermath, Q&A. Wednesday, I'm going to try to keep Wednesday Night Dynamite 60 minutes tops. We'll just go over Raw, NXT a little bit, go over AEW a little bit, get into some news as well, a little bit of commentary, and, we'll try to get some dirt as far as some of the feedback about CM Punk showing up in WWE. So, guys, much love as always, and thank you very much for the support. Be well, have a good night, and keep spreading the word. Keep downloading those shows from DonTony.com. Props to everybody in the United States. We went up 45 notches today because of yesterday's show. Yeah, Survivor Series got a little bit of additional attention that warrants it. But pretty cool to see so many of you out there continuing to support. And I look forward to doing the show with Kev tomorrow. And I hope you can join us. Be well, everybody. Talk to you all soon, and have a good one.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.